Hi, everybody. This is Ibarionex from the Candid Frame. Today I'm going to talk about capturing emotion. But before I do that, I want to remind you that I am going to be in San Antonio, Texas this weekend, November 18th, for 4x5 Photo Fest. It's going to be an amazing event with photographers from the San Antonio and surrounding areas talking shop, sharing photographs, several panel discussions, print exchanges, and I'll be conducting 2 live interviews for the Candid Frame while I'm there. So to find out more, go to 4x5photofest.com. Now, one of the things that I want to talk today is about emotion. Emotion that happens on the street. I've talked about capturing human interaction, but sometimes, we're taking photographs of people that are just by themselves. And we see a lot of that in street photography where people are in their thoughts or, they're listening on their phones and in terms of their body language and their facial expressions, it's just sort of blank. There's really nothing there. But every once in a while, you'll see a photographer that captures someone who is deep in thought or is engaged with someone else in which something about their humanity, their personality, their emotions is revealed in the shot. And it's a very difficult thing to capture for a variety of different reasons. But I chose 3 images that sort of illustrate that point to help to sort of maybe spur the idea of trying to capture that in your own photography. All right, here we have a shot by Natan Salinas R. This was shot with a Nikon D5100 at 1/40th of a second, 5.6 ISO 100. Now, there are a lot of times when we make photographs of people who are in their thoughts, and I think all of us are always in our thoughts if we're not distracted by something on our phone or our tablet or something that's happening around us. But there are moments when people are so deep in thought that whatever they're thinking about is somehow revealed in their face and in their body language. And I think that Natan manages to capture that with this young woman who seems to be sitting in a rail car on a train or something like that. She's leaning up against the window. Her body is leaning heavily against it. And there's just something about her facial expression that is saying something in terms of where she is in that moment in time. That she's deep in thought, that she's thinking about something, and it seems to be something that is very important to her. And if you compare this to other images of people that are sitting on a bench or waiting on a bus or sitting on a wall, and especially if you look at a lot of the images in the Flickr Pool, we'll see people who are just sitting there, but there's no there. You don't have a feeling that they're thinking about anything. They're just kind of existing in that space. But this young woman, it seems to be that she is very deep in thought and involved in her thoughts, and who knows what she's thinking about. She could be thinking about a family member, a lover, maybe something that just happened to her, or maybe she's going somewhere where she's going to have to sort of confront something. Whatever it is, it seems like it's preoccupying her mind. And I really love this shot because of how quiet the moment is, but because it seems to express that sort of strong emotion with such subtlety. There are a lot of things to like about this image visually. The light that's falling on her is really wonderful. I love the reflection of the glass. We have some signage that seems to be reflected in the glass, and we can't really tell what that text is, and that's not particularly important, but the reflection there adds a range of tones to this black and white rendering of the shot that works really, really nicely. She's framed beautifully by the upper and the lower edge of the window, the curtain on the left. The light that's falling on her allows her to be pretty much the brightest element in the frame, where the light in the interior of the car just falls off. You have this nice sort of dappled light that's falling on her. And I just love the contrast of tones. I don't know how this image looked as a color image, but I feel like I would completely agree with the choice to render this as a black and white because it emphasizes the emotion, the expression, the body language. It's a great image, but one of the reasons why this can prove very elusive to capture is because we're oftentimes not paying attention to this degree to a person who is sort of revealing that their thoughts, their emotions are really displayed clearly on their faces. We're always trying to be so polite and not be intrusive to the point that we don't really observe people to a great degree. We may see them, and unless they're expressing themselves in a very dramatic fashion, we just sort of move past each other without paying much notice at all. But as a photographer, you really need to be paying attention, because moments like this, I guarantee you, happen all the time in terms of people sort of wearing their emotions on their sleeves or on their face in this case. But how many times do we capture that in a photograph? And as much as I like to talk about light and line and shape and gesture and all those things, this sort of thing, this capturing of emotion, I think is really one of the ultimate challenges that any street photographer can give themselves. And I commend Natan here for capturing a really wonderful photograph. Next, we have a shot by Lawrence Wilkes. This was made with a Nikon D850 at 250th of a second, 3.5 ISO 360. Now, one of the things that we see a lot of in the Flickr group are photographs of people walking down the street. And again, I really recommend that you take a look at a lot of those images. Some of those images include some very interesting characters, but what I'm asking you to look at is the expression and the body language. Are they expressing anything that's different, unique, that sort of allows them to literally stand out of the crowd? In this case, we have sort of the obvious element, which is this drummer wearing this costume. She has this very saturated colored coat. She has the hat, the feather on top, the red lips. There's this great contrast between her sharpness and how everything else in the background is really soft. She just really pops out of the frame for all of those reasons. But there is something about her expression that makes me really like this shot. She seems to have a degree of pride about how she looks, about something. And that is what really sort of draws my attention to her. There's something in terms of her expression that she is thinking about something that is just making her feel good. And that contrasts markedly with sort of the blank stares that we normally see in a lot of street photographs, where people just seem to be completely zoned out. They're just putting one foot in front of the other. But there's so many times when people are, they're thinking about something and their face just shows it. And I don't know what this woman was thinking about, but it seems to me that it was something really warm, comforting, something that made her happy. It may have been something that she saw that she was reacting to, but it seems like it was something much more internal. And I love how Lawrence here uses the limited depth of field, how even though he positions her at the far right-hand side of the frame, that the image really works. I think it's, a lot of people would say, well, she's at the edge of the frame and she's looking out of the frame, and that's something you never want to do. And for me, it doesn't bother me in the least. It doesn't bother me that she's, at the far right edge of the frame, and that she's looking off frame. I feel like the elements that exist on the left-hand side of the frame, like the walking figure and the walk sign, and all this visual mass that's happening on the left-hand side, helps to balance it out. It doesn't imbalance the image for me. And I like the visual tension that's created as a result of her, sort of almost moving completely out of frame. It creates a little bit of mystery, because when I see that expression, I'm wondering, what is she looking at? What is she reacting to? It may have been nothing. It just may have been the expression on her face. But, all that being said, I go back to that wonderful look in her eye. There is a glint in her eye, and it just seems like she's walking on top of the world, and I really love that. And again, one of the reasons why we may have really difficult time capturing images like this, whether you're using a telephoto or wide angle, is that we don't want to be intrusive, especially when someone is in the midst of what is some sort of emotion. We always want to be respectful and sort of not make the photograph. But as a street photographer, those are the moments that we are hunting for. Those are the kind of moments that you're really hoping that you see and that you can capture. And sometimes you have to get past your own fear, anxiety, your own trepidation, your own, all your reasons for not making the photograph. Sometimes you have to just make the photograph, and if the person is offended by it, just apologize for it. But you have nothing to apologize for if you didn't make the picture. And sometimes those pictures are the pictures that really people remember. We see so many photographs, especially if you're looking at Instagram or you're looking through Flickr. Think about how quickly you pass through those images, and you're just waiting for something to arrest you, to stop you in your tracks, and to have you linger in the photograph. For me, this photograph does just that. All right, here we have a shot by KM Clear. This was made with Olympus EM5 at 320th of a second, 5.6, ISO 400. Now, here is an image in which we are seeing emotion expressed in an interaction between 2 and 3 people here. And for me, this shot is just so funny. This guy is leaning into this woman to plant a kiss on her cheek, and she is completely indifferent to it. I mean, it's the last thing she wants to receive is any display of affection. She's buried in her phone. What I read into the image is that they're tourists. They're trying to find out where they're going to go next. She's busy trying to find the route or whatever. And for whatever reason, he leans in for a kiss, and she's just like, yeah, let me keep doing what I'm doing. And for me, that there's a lot of humor in that, because we've all experienced, or even us, sort of trying to express affection and someone sort of rejecting it. Not in a mean way, but just like, not now. And the other odd thing that which I think is wonderful is this kid who's oblivious to the both of them, who has this wooden sword on his hip. That's great. And there's just a lot of things that make this shot work. I love how the color of her top mirrors the color of the streetcar, the lines and the shapes that pervade this whole image, and how everything sort of leads from the distance up to them in that moment of public affection that's being displayed in this shot. So all of those things make for a wonderful moment. And I love that KM here captured this shot, because there is so much humanity in this moment. Just the connection and the difference in terms of emotion. And this isn't people laughing or people crying. This is like real world stuff. And this is the kind of stuff that I think is something I'm always on the hunt for. People sort of expressing themselves, either when they're by themselves or when they're relating to other people. I think the best candid photography, I don't even want to use the word street photography, because I think it has a lot of baggage. But candid photography, the act of capturing people in the midst of their lives, is about being able sometimes to just capture people. It's about capturing people just being human. And this shot is all about that, about being human, about being vulnerable, about wanting affection or not wanting affection. It's a rich image for me. And it's a simple photograph, but it is a very effective and poignant photograph. As always, I hope you found that helpful. If you have never heard of the Candid Frame and this is your first experience with it, the Candid Frame is more than just a YouTube channel in which I critique images. I do interviews with photographers and have been doing that for the last 11 years. And we have almost 400 interviews in our archive. And our most recent interview was with Juan Martinez, who is the co-founder of Beers and Cameras. It's sort of a group of photographers that meet on a fairly regular basis in San Diego, but it is a group that is spreading to different cities in not only the United States, but also Canada and in the UK. It's a great conversation about community and about having a great idea and running with it and trying to make it happen. I really suggest you check it out. And you can find out about that and so many other great photographers by visiting thecandidframe.com. And we do have a Candid Frame app that's available that gives you access to the entire archive of interviews. You'll just go to the Candid Frame website. You'll see a link here, and you can download either the Android or the Apple iOS version, and then you'll have access to every interview, and you'll be able to save it. You can stream it, and if you like an episode, you can share it on your social networks. Or if you want to comment or you want to suggest a photographer for me to consider for a future interview, you can contact me directly from the app. So thanks for joining me. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.